What if your value proposition is something that's really new and unique and requires a bit of a learning curve for the consumer, for the retailer? What if you have to explain it and introduce it because there's an edge to it? It's an unconventional product, an eggless, plant-based mayonnaise, a fish burger that doesn't have any fish. Carolyn Love has done this a couple of times, and she's here to talk to us a little bit about building the next generation of food companies when that generation is a little unfamiliar to the previous one. So Carolyn, please go for it.
Good morning. When Jeff first asked me to come and speak at a boot camp for first-time food entrepreneurs, I thought, gosh, I really wish there had been a boot camp for me 5 years ago, because it's certainly a learning curve, but sometimes the best way to learn is to actually do it, and that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years at Hampton Creek, and just recently left and have started a consulting business working with early stage, mission-driven, plant-based food companies. So we'll talk about the learnings from Hampton Creek and the learnings with my new work. So for everybody that's followed the news of Hampton Creek, you know we had a few headlines. The good, some bad, and the ugly. And then we hit that Silicon Valley status, unicorn, $1 billion in valuation. It was a total roller coaster and really the best street MBA money can buy, because after you've built the plane while you're flying the plane, it's really easy to fly the plane, build the plane on the ground, and then fly it. And as intense as those early days are, I have to say I'm really excited to be on the other side of things now and watching the company from the outside and watching them continue to grow. Just yesterday, if you followed the news, they launched a really exciting, innovative product called Just Scramble. This is a plant-based scrambled egg. It is made from a mung bean, which we're just recently able to announce. And this mung bean is one of 400,000 plant species, innovative products that you should be using in your next product as well. We'll get back to future CPG and ingredients to go into your products in just a bit. But I wanted to mention that I didn't leave Hampton Creek because I didn't love mayonnaise. In fact, I do love mayonnaise. As an early employee, I was taste testing mayonnaise. I was launching our retail products in Whole Foods, Costco, Safeway, Kroger, Target, Walmart, Dollar Tree. That was in the first 9 months of the company. I led our operations team. I was launching 3 and 4 co-packers at a time, dozens of SKUs a year, and scaling our company to launch with Compass Group, the largest food service company in the planet, in just our second year of selling. Today, I am taking all of that knowledge and pouring it into the companies I work with. As I mentioned, mission-driven, plant-based food companies with a great idea and looking to scale globally. So as you are trying to do that, let's take a couple of lessons that I gathered from Hampton Creek that I use with my companies today. The first one is a no-brainer in food. Food safety is number one. As soon as you are taking a product to launch, start building your quality assurance team. Food safety, you get one shot with food. If you hurt someone, you're not coming back from that. So my number one piece of advice is make sure that is what you were thinking about at the start of every single day and when you go to bed at night. Number 2, assume your emails may end up in the New York Times. And they might. The future of food, there is a spotlight on all of us today We are the innovators in the food space, and journalists are taking an interest in this. I can say this as a former journalist. The spotlight is going to be on you, and people are going to be looking at everything you are doing. Just think about this. But run such an honest and transparent business that you don't care if your emails end up in the New York Times. I always say to make decisions with a 100-year lens. It's kind of a dirty secret in the CPG world that a lot of companies will go out and buy their own product, whether to boost sales, to show your buyers, to get better shelf space. This is somewhat common. And that might help short term. But long term, think about what you're trying to grow. A transparent, honest, good business that you want to be around for generations. And a couple of extra jars of mayonnaise or tubs of cookie dough or bags of popcorn is not going to matter when you're trying to build a 100-year business. So always use that lens to make decisions. Over-communicate with all of your partners. I can't stress this one enough. These people want to help you. They want to help you succeed. They want to help you grow. With your distributor, if you're having a short, call them immediately and let them know so they can help you. Talk to your buyer if you're going to be a little late on a PO. Your broker, if you're running a promotion, they can help you strategize around that. Your customers with social media, they want you to over-communicate with them. Your co-packers, if you're thinking about changing a formulation, your suppliers, your board, your employees, 9 times out of 10, every situation, over-communication is better than less. And finally, be good to your people. We are all in a space that is trying to build something better. Mission-driven companies are the ones that I enjoy working with the most. And there's typically 2 types of people that are attracted to startups. People that see an opportunity for a lot of value, and they jump in, and then they cash out. And then there are people who want to grow your mission. And those folks will work harder for you than anyone else. So I always say, find those people that align with your mission, hire them, cultivate them, and treat them well. And if you apply these lessons of success, you are on your way to cracking into a massive space. The vegan food sector today is growing, and it is outpacing all other categories in food. It's really been incredible year over year. And investors are joining this space. There is a lot of money pouring into food. We see the headlines every single day. Some famous faces and some famous names even getting into the game. Bill Gates, Richard Branson investing in cellular agriculture, Leonardo DiCaprio investing in the Beyond Burger. And what's really exciting about these investors is they don't just see the value in the plant-based food sector, they're also focused on doing good, how food can be a part of the solution and not the problem. We're seeing it again in 2018. Plant-based is topping the list of all of the hottest food trends. But if money is not your thing, consider the planet and how food can again be part of the solution and not the problem. As an example, let's take our oceans. We know that our oceans are collapsing. 90% of global fish stocks are overfished or fully fished today. And our oceans are expected to collapse by the year 2048. With every problem, there is an opportunity. The plant-based meat sector specifically is exploding, an estimated 700 million in just a few years. Some companies that I have been lucky enough to work with are a part of this solution, but I tell you there is a ton of opportunity still in this plant-based seafood space. On the right is Ocean Hunger Foods, and even though that looks just like a piece of tuna, that is actually a tomato that is based out of New York, but you can actually drive right down to our Whole Foods here in Santa Monica or in Venice and buy this from the Whole Foods sushi department. They're also exploring some food service opportunities. Google and some of their tech companies are serving this in their cafeterias, and it's really delicious. On the left is a company that's launching next year in some pretty big retailers globally. Good Catch Foods has 5 SKUs, both frozen and shelf stable. And what's really amazing is their innovative ingredient is going back to something so basic that I love, beans. It's a 6-bean blend, and it tastes exactly like flaked tuna. You throw a little mayo in there, piece of white bread, and it's just like your childhood memory. And then also their frozen SKUs, burgers, sliders, and crab cakes. So look for those next year. But no one said this was going to be easy, tearing down big bad food. Big Ag is certainly putting up a fight, and we're seeing these headlines more and more every day. Specifically, what we're seeing big dairy, big meat use is some outdated regulations that you can find on the FDA's website. If you're in for some good reading on your flight home, I highly recommend pulling up Title 21, Section 169, which is the standard of identity for mayonnaise, and exactly what mayonnaise has to contain in order to be called mayonnaise. And these standards of identity exist dating back to the early part of last century, and it really does favor Big Ag. So mayonnaise must contain a certain amount of eggs to be called mayonnaise. Well, why is this? This doesn't make any sense. But that is what the big lobbies are using to fall back on to challenge the future of food. So an interesting read here, for sure. For those of us in the room that know what's coming, this won't be a surprise, but if you're anything like me, I look back 5 years ago and I really wish I had invested in Bitcoin. Anybody else? I think people are going to be saying the exact same things about not only plant-based foods, but cellular agriculture. This is the future of food, the future of CPG. So share it with your friends if you like anybody. I know I'm in a room with my people, and I'm so excited to be here today. I love food, and I love the solution that good food offers in a world of big bad food, how we can actually solve this problem using delicious products. So I'm really excited to continue the conversation with everybody today at lunch, hear about your ideas, grow your companies, and talk about how we can solve problems. And get in touch.
Thank you. Terrific. Could we talk for a second, though? I just had a couple of tactical questions, actually. Hang on. So I'm wondering, who was the first retailer for Just Mayo?
Whole Foods.
Okay.
Whole Foods called us. They said, we're hearing about your company. We don't know exactly what you do, but we want to be involved in it somehow. So we just had a swell of support, those early adopters that were excited about the mission, going back to that, and reached out to Whole Foods and said, we want Hampton Creek, and Whole Foods called us.
So there was a great deal of awareness within the sort of community that would be interested in this kind of product.
Exactly.
But it moved to Target and Walmart, right?
Yes, quickly.
So how does a Target or Walmart buyer get hip to something that we're thinking about as revolutionary? I mean, how do you move that in? What's that process like?
I heard it from a speaker yesterday. I think some of the smartest people in our industry are the buyers that are at Walmart and Target. Specifically, a woman named Kelly. She was our buyer at Target when we launched Just Mayo in 2014 in Target. And she's a young woman. She's a millennial. She was walking the Whole Foods stores. She was walking, co-ops in San Francisco, looking for the next things. And she saw a lot of opportunity in Hampton Creek, and the story and the mission and the ethos of what we believed, and she also believed it.
So moving into mass channels like this, what's the what's the playbook that you guys came up with?
Like I said, we were building the plane as we were flying the plane. Strategy in advance did not exist in those days. I would not do that again, I should say. But at the time, the strategy was, we've got a big problem with food. It's affecting our planet, it's affecting our people, it's affecting animals. And we're really working to disrupt that in particular, so it was grow as big as possible, as fast as possible. So Whole Foods was the first, but when Target and Walmart and Safeway and Kroger came along, we jumped on those opportunities as fast as possible. But with that comes a lot of challenges. When you're a young company and you have one co-packer to start with, you are constrained with supply of mayonnaise. But I think in the future, being really strategic about what you want your impact to be. Are you trying to go globally? Walmart, Target, probably the best place for you to start.
But you can't scale if you don't have those things in line. And I mean, these are the kinds of things that we're trying to point out.
Right,
here.
the constant weighing. If you don't have the demand, why grow? Why launch another co-packer? Exactly. So a lot of it is reacting very quickly to the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, and I think that also speaks to James's strategic plan idea, which is when that opportunity comes, how do we flex up? Mm-hmm. Is it going to involve as we heard yesterday? Is it going to involve dropping certain co-packers? Are they aware that might happen? It's going to cost you to leave them. It's going to cost you to leave a distributor.
Yeah, being very transparent with your partners about what you're trying to do, how fast you're trying to grow, see if they'll grow with you. We had several co-packers that were small when we started working with them, and that was the right partner, the right size for us at the time. But then when we got Walmart, we had to buy another mixer to make mayonnaise, and that's a very expensive piece of equipment, and we needed somewhere to put it. And co-packers volunteered to open their space up and allow them to grow with us.
Now, moving it into Walmart, how do you prep for a Walmart launch? And again, how do you prep for a Walmart launch with a product that doesn't necessarily scream Walmart?
I vividly remember getting pictures from our then supply chain team in our warehouse, taping up boxes and slapping the shipping labels on the box. I mean, this was all happening so fast in the early days that, again, there wasn't a lot of looking down the road. So strategy, I wouldn't say was there at the time. It was really, how do you grow as fast as possible? Walmart, that's how you do it. And we launched in almost all 4,000 doors at once. But on the back end, really working with your buyer, really understanding the Walmart consumer, and just getting better every single day if you don't do it right the first time.
So now when you're talking to new companies now, what's that strategic process that you're advising them on as they start to sell in? Who's got the weirdest product?
Oh yeah, let's use an example. I saw a hand. What's your
You're
product?
not that weird.
I'm different.
You're different. What do we got?
Well, Walmart's contacted us, and as flattering as that might be to be quoted by such good, big national, retailer, I'm not so sure that my strategy is to grow as fast as I can, as far as I can. I think it's better for us right now to go a little deeper in our territory that we can service than wide and shallow. But, it's flattering nonetheless.
I think it's incredibly self-aware of you to know exactly what you're capable of, what your team's capable of, what you're trying to do. Don't be afraid to say no. And actually, that's another huge lesson that I could put on that slide. It's exciting to say yes, and it's exciting to grow as fast as you possibly can, but disappointing people, disappointing a buyer, the worst thing. It's a famous saying for a reason, but under promise and over deliver, and not being afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to call them back in a year and say, hey, we've achieved these milestones over the past 12 months. We'd love to pick that conversation back up. Here's why we think we should be on the shelves of Walmart today. I will say with Walmart in particular, since you bring up that example, if you get kicked off of Walmart shelves, it takes a minimum of 5 years to get back in front of a buyer to be reconsidered to get back on the shelf. And we almost faced, I should say, this problem, launched in Walmart, and we had supply issues. And we were short on POs, we were missing POs, we were late to POs. And again, going back to communication, always being really transparent. Hey, Kristen, we've got a problem. We just want to let you know, talk through it. There's a lot of grace when you do that and you have those conversations honestly, but you only get so many of those conversations before they've got to report to their boss and they're just going to remove you from the shelves. And then it takes, again, 5 years to have that conversation again. So don't be afraid to say no now. Again, self-awareness in growing a business is everything.
Let's roll it back to Whole Foods for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly there's more willingness to foster this kind of incubation in that organization, although they wanted to go quickly with it too.
Yeah.
What are the technical steps that you're making to introduce this product
Mm-hmm.
and to ensure supply there and to communicate its value early on?
Yeah. Something special about Whole Foods, because they are smaller and compared to just number of doors versus a Walmart, is you have a sampling opportunity with Whole Foods, whether if you hire your own team, if you outsource it, if you use team members that work at Whole Foods. It's really a somewhat affordable way to get your product into a ton of consumers' mouths that walk in the door. And as we're talking about, innovative products, tuna made from tomato, or crab made from beans, mayonnaise made from plants, consumers need to taste that. They need to know what that actually tastes like, and they're not just hearing about it, because some of these products can sound unusual. So I think what Whole Foods really offers strategically is a chance to get the product in everybody's mouth, whereas Walmart, if you tried to do a mass sampling program, it would run through all of your runway.
So, question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Whole Foods gives you more runway. You're able to get consumers to overcome the ick factor.
The uncertainty.
Ick. I have kids.
I have a cat.
That's the ack factor. The ick factor is a big one, and we tend to think of the Walmart consumer, and not to paint with too broad a brush, but they're not that risk taker that James was speaking to. And getting Walmart, how do you work with the Walmart buyer and the Walmart team, or even the Kroger buyer and the Kroger team, to say we're going to get consumers to overcome the ick factor here?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily just mean that with Hampton Creek. I mean, again, you're about to sell bean tuna, so how do you prep for that at retail?
Yeah. Well, for your buyer, obviously, they taste it, they love it. They're putting themselves out there for this product, so they're going to make sure that it's in the best place strategically in Walmart to get to consumers. The other thing I would say for Walmart in particular that we found to be really successful, and that I recommend this to my companies today, is find a good Walmart partner, meaning a broker or someone who's actually worked and lived in the landscape of Walmart. I have a couple of suggestions that I'm happy to share offline if that's something folks are interested in, but they really understand how the inner workings of Walmart are because they walked the hallways. So I would say that's one big recommendation. But also, if you're looking at a product for retail, consider also launching it in food service. So Compass Group, Aramark, Sodexo, selling your product to schools, hospitals, corporate cafeterias, having it living in Google's cafeteria. There's a lot of cross-promotion there. Something we experimented with at Hampton Creek was our mayo pumps. If you're at a stadium or a cafeteria, you can pump mayo into a little cup. We experimented with having coupons to go over to a Walmart or to a Target and buy a jar of just mayo. So just that constant reminder of the product when you're at work, when you're at school, and then when you go into Walmart. So I think that's another opportunity to push people into Walmart.
So we're talking about surrounding ourselves with the right group of people to help us grow and to help us make these transitions. If you're not able to sell them in yourself or to make that point to the buyer most easily. So we're dealing with a different set of buyers in just a second when we talk about the Amazon buyer. And I'm going to invite Carol up to make our next introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Chuck. Good question.